Meeting to order. This meeting is being held in accordance with the Open
Recording in
Meetings
progress.
Act 10:4-6 at SEEK. And annual notice having been forwarded to the New Jersey Herald and the New Jersey Sunday Herald and posted on the bulletin board maintained in the municipal building for public announcements. Would everybody please rise and join us for a salute to the flag? I've got a flag up behind me someplace. There it is. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the
United States of America,
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible,
Justice
and justice for all.
Justice for all.
Would the secretary please call the roll?
Mr. Bongiovanni.
Here.
Mr. Dellarino.
Here.
Mr. Duncan.
Here.
Mr. Gaffney.
Here.
Mark.
Yes.
Mr. Ray.
Here.
Mr. Rossi. Is Mr. Rossi here?
No.
don't see him.
Mr. Smith.
Here.
Mr. Tappan.
Here.
Mr. Taylor.
Here.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello.
Glad to see you back.
Thank you.
Councilman Schindler.
Here.
Mayor Francis.
Here.
Mr. Gilbert.
Here. The
You aren't here. You
we
didn't
have a
call.
quorum. The minutes of the meeting of April 19th, 2022 were distributed electronically. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion for approval.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Mr. Bongiovanni.
Yes.
Mr. Duncan.
Yes.
Mr. Gaffney.
Yes.
Mrs. Crock.
Yes.
Mr. Ray.
Dane.
Mr. Tappan.
Yes.
Councilman Schindler.
Yes.
Mayor Francis.
Yeah.
Mr. Gilbert.
Yes. Okay, we will start tonight with a continued application, Hal Glasser, block 10812, lot 5, 23 Cove Road. The application is for existing items at the property consisting of a dock, a boat lift, a wave runner dock, and storage shed. Variances, several variances are being requested, as well as some that we might decide have to accompany them. I believe this might be a use variance, and therefore the mayor and councilman have to recuse themselves.
This application is a use variance application, and so is the best horn. So the first two on the agenda are use variance applications.
Okay, thank you, Bill.
Hey, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to recuse myself, Rich Schindler.
Okay. And
I'm
Mr.
recused,
Mayor?
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Then we will seat two of the alternates. And we will proceed. Mr. Glasser, are you here? Is there somebody representing Mr. Glasser?
Mr. Glasser's on.
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, Mr. Glasser, you're here?
Yes.
Okay,
Mr. Glasser, this is a continuation of the hearing from March 15th. It's been a little while. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
After the March 15th meeting, the board determined that we should have a better depiction of what's going on at the property. We had a very old survey with some handwriting on it to try to show some structure. Since then, you've provided a survey prepared by a Thomas C. Yeager, and that survey is dated March 30th. It does provide a depiction of the dock and a plastic shed, doesn't provide any setbacks, though.
it doesn't provide any dimensions at all, Bill.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not just setbacks, it's no
Setbacks.
dimensions at all.
Right.
And the dock is not the same, not in the same place as it was on the previous depiction that we had.
Okay. Well, this is a current survey, so we're going to take it that the dock is depicted on this survey is accurately located. But as
Okay.
the chairman says, we don't have dimensions or setbacks.
Right. We also don't know where the electricity is coming from.
There is no electricity on the property.
Well, there's a wire going out to the plastic dock, the Waiver
boat lift.
dock, boat lift, and there's a
Oh.
boat lift there.
There's a generator in the shed that runs the boat lift.
Oh, okay. Then there's a generator. What about the dimensions and the setbacks, Mr. Glasser?
I don't have the measurements. I mean, I paid for a survey. I couldn't tell you, I mean, I'm not an expert, so that's the survey I got as per your request of an as-built survey. That is what I received.
Well, no, an as-built should show setbacks and dimensions, and this doesn't show either. So I don't see how we can act on this.
Mr. Chairman, I did the review naturally using the survey is drawn to the scale naturally, and I did do the review based on that scale. As a matter of fact, that maybe that the new survey with the boat lift to the left, I actually squared that off with my review sheet. That you may have copies of that, and I don't know whether that would suffice.
I don't think it will, Bill.
Okay.
Okay, what does the board have to say? What is the pleasure of the board?
I think it would be good if we had a survey that actually had dimensions on it, so we know the appropriate positioning of the dock, the length of the docks, and those things, especially if we ever have to go back to it in the future.
Okay,
I also think in order not to set a precedent going forward, things got to be right before we proceed.
I agree.
Otherwise, what are we approving? And we don't even know, if we don't have the dimensions of the offset, we don't even know what we're approving. So we really need to have the accuracy of those dimensions.
That's correct. We don't even know the size of that shed, plastic shed.
No, we're bowling in the dark.
Okay, Mr. Glasser.
Yeah.
Would you like to contact your surveyor and planner and ask them to update this, or to contact us and let us tell them what we need to see on the survey?
I guess.
Yeah, it's pretty simple.
If that's the only way we're going to move forward.
Well,
it's
we
pretty
can't move forward with what we've got, sir.
Pretty simple. It's just the dimensions of the plastic shed. This survey should accurately show what's on that property, dimensions of the shed, setback of the shed, and the dimensions of the dock and setback of the dock. Also, we've got a plastic dock add-on, it appears, to the narrow dock. That should show dimensions as well and setback.
Right.
What about the dimensions of the boat lift on the other side of the dock?
I don't see the boat lift depicted on your survey.
No.
It's not on the survey, but it's there.
It's
But,
gotta
but,
be
but,
done.
but you take it in and out, I take it. The boat lift comes in and out every year?
I didn't pull it out last year. I mean, it could be pulled out. So could the waiver runner dock. The waiver runner dock and the boat lift can both be pulled in and out every season.
Okay, but they're in the lake now.
Yes.
Well, yeah, the surveyor should show those. We want to make sure that they're within the property boundaries. You should show those and show the setback to those.
Otherwise, what are you asking a variance for? How do you know? If you don't have the sizes there, how do you know what variances you're asking for? And Lord knows we can't approve it if we don't know what the dimensions are. Just give us some tools to work with.
I gave you the survey. I'm not an engineer or a surveyor to draw a survey, so I don't know what's exactly supposed to be on it. You can't really put that on me.
Okay,
No,
well,
yeah, typically a survey will show setbacks, so, no, I can't, you're not a
Yeah.
surveyor, but your surveyor certainly can do that and should.
Okay.
yeah, if your surveyor
you
is
need-
not sure what has to be shown, he can always give us a call and we'll tell him what we need.
Okay.
Okay, Danielle or Nicole, when could he come back to us?
June 21st.
Okay. Mr.
Otherwise-
Glasser, does that work for you?
June 21st it is.
Okay, then,
How the date for that, for you to have the revisions into me would be June 10th.
Yep.
okay, then we'll need a motion from the board.
I'll make that motion.
With or without notice.
Without,
About,
Okay.
without, yeah.
All right.
Second it.
Who was the second? Bob, got it. Mr. Bongiovanni,
Yes.
Mr. Dellarina,
Yes.
Mr. Duncan,
Bob Duncan,
Yes.
Mr. Gaffney,
Yes.
Mrs. Crock,
Yes.
Mr. Ray,
Yes.
Mr. Taylor,
Yes.
Mr. Tappan,
Yes.
Mr. Gilbert.
yes. Geez, I just got a text message that my 3-year-old grandson tested positive today.
Oh,
Okay.
no.
Okay, let's move on. The mayor and councilman are still recused, and we will now move on to new applications. Brian Besthorn, block 31101, lot 14, 317 Maxim Drive. The applicant would like to clean up the brush on the lot, vacant lot, repair a retaining wall, construct a shed with electricity, a dock, and add a gravel walkway. There are variances, and since there is no accessory building on any lot without a principal building, this is also a use variance. So the mayor and councilman will still be recused. Mr. Besthorn is here, I'm sure. Is that?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'm here.
Yes, and are you going to be represented by anybody tonight?
I'll be representing myself today.
Okay, then Bill, do you want to swear him in again?
Mr.
Mr.
Besthorn,
Chairman,
please.
could I enter my appearance? I'm an attorney. I'm involved in this case.
Well, let's wait
Why don't we
until.
swear in the witness first and then let's do that.
Yeah, let's
So,
wait.
All right.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes,
And are you the property owner now?
I am.
Okay, the attorney can enter his appearance if he wants,
Okay, Miss.
but we've done that.
Thank
Yeah,
you,
who was
Mr.
that?
Chairman. My name is Jay Bone, B-O-H-N. Unfortunately, I'm identified as Kieran Dowling on the screen because that's the way this account is set up. I represent Winfred Ginter, who owns the property next door.
And
Okay,
what lot is that?
That
Yep.
is, it's 319 Maxim Drive. It's immediately to the west. Do you know your lot number?
That's okay.
Lot 14.
14, block
14.
31101.
Okay,
That's Mr. Besthorn's lot.
Oh, okay, that's right.
But we'll get the lot number for you, but it's immediately to the west. It's 319 Maxim Drive.
looks like it's 13. All right. You'll verify that. Oh, okay. All right. And the board members may remember this application. It was previously presented to the board, but unfortunately we didn't have an audio tape, so therefore the matter's remanded. So we're starting from scratch. This is a new hearing, so strike whatever you remember from the last process, and we're starting fresh today. Okay. Mr. Besthorn, do you want to tell the board what it is that you'd like?
Sure, I'd love to. Thank you. I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen if that's okay.
Sure, go ahead.
All right. Okay, so I live at 63 Sutton Trail, and around the corner from me, which is also directly behind my home through the a couple of pieces of property there's this vacant lot that I have purchased, and my intent is to utilize this lot for my family's recreation. So I intend on putting in a gravel pathway while maintaining the natural, current slope of the lot down to a shed where I can store kayaks and other things to enjoy on the lake. The shed is placed in the most level part of that lot, and we have marked the drainage calculations and also added a swale around that shed to provide positive drainage. Then below that is the gravel path continuing on to where the wood dock would be. The electricity would be ran underground, and to minimize disturbances, we would utilize the same area that the gravel pathway will be and put those utilities underneath that gravel pathway. We do have some issues with a driveway from the neighboring lot encroaching on the property. As you can see on the, I guess that would be along Maxim Drive there. And there is also another dock that's encroaching as well. With that being said, we have tried our best to accommodate the neighbors by making that dock as close to the left hand of or I guess it would be the west side of the property line. And we actually came pretty close, even though that dock is encroaching to 21 feet of dock space. We have 20 foot 3 inches. And we have over 33 foot to the boathouse on the other side of the dock, which would be to the west by Mr. Ginter's lot. I intend on utilizing the unimproved Toth Lane, which, well, it's halfway improved. Toth Lane goes halfway up through off of Maxim, halfway up to Sutton Trail. The other half is just woods. I do frequently walk through there, and I plan on just clearing out a little bit of brush along the walkway to make it so I don't get any ticks if I walk through there. But my family does plan on utilizing that on that Toth Lane area to walk down and cut through to walk to this lot.
Okay, where would the electricity come from, Mr. Besthorn?
There is a utility pole, and it is over here around where my mouse is. So
okay.
From there, it would go underground. And it would go underground, and it would follow the same path as the gravel walkway, so I can minimize disturbing the rest of the lot. And it would be ran to the shed. And the reason why I want that is to have lighting, and I want to put a refrigerator in there to keep hamburgers, hot dogs, so I can take them on the boat. Being that I want to walk to this lot, I don't want to have to carry a lot of, groceries and things. So I want to keep some hamburgers, hot dogs, obviously some beers in that refrigerator, and keep them cold. So that's the reason for that. I might also put a camera there so I can monitor the lot from my home as needed, because we did have issues.
Are you going to put up a gate by the dock?
Yes, I am going to put up a gate along, not by the dock, but actually along the roadway. We do have people that have been trespassing from other towns and other areas and using this to launch their, I saw someone last year with an inflatable boat with a trolling motor on the back, for example, and he was very surprised to learn that he shouldn't be there. The reason I had to do that is because obviously there are some liability issues, because I am the owner and I have to insure this property. So I do have to make sure that I don't let trespassing there. Another interesting fact about this lot is that we have some people that do hold easement rights. And the reason why I did include the title search with the application is to show you that I did my due diligence and did the title search. Now, a lot of those lots have been merged in. I don't know if any of you are familiar with Sutton Trail, but there used to be a subdivision here that was never came to fruition. And Designer Homes of New Jersey ended up merging a lot of those lots together into the 5 parcels or 6 parcels of land, one of which is mine. And then we have on the other side of, along Maxim Drive, we have the Doring property, which also has rights, and also one other property across the street from that. So I intend to still respect all of the rights for all of the easement holders, and anybody who wants to still access this lot for exercising those rights to use the lot. And a lot of the statements in here are for swimming and bathing and to access the lake. So kayaks, if they want to go swimming or anything like that. I can't accommodate any other boats in the dock right now. One day, obviously there's no room because the other dock is encroaching, but if I was to have enough area one day where a boat was able to get around that closer slip, I would be okay with somebody sharing the costs and utilizing that, as long as they had easement rights and I could accommodate them. But right now I can't, unfortunately. But other than that, nobody's easement rights do indicate that they have rights to dock a boat. They have rights to access the lake for swimming and bathing. I do have some revised dock agreement that I would allow somebody to dock a boat if feasible there for a cost sharing agreement if they had a current easement right for that. But at this time, we don't have that in any plan. So that's basically it. I have closed on this property, and I do have a deed restriction in place that says that I cannot sell this property separately unless it sells along with my home at 63 Sutton Trail, or to any current easement holder at the time of the previous resolution. So that means that if I do develop this area, I can't go and sell it to somebody from out of town and have strangers using this. It's going to be used for its originally intended use. And if we look at the deeds going back in the title history and the title search, you can see that it's pretty clear that the intended use of this lot was to provide people in the area with a way to access and enjoy the lake. And it's definitely too small to develop into something with a home on it, but it has been abandoned for a long time. And
yeah, I know. You clean up the closet a little bit in my room?
I'm sorry, did somebody ask something?
No.
Was that Mark?
No, I didn't throw nothing.
Okay, so and
Yeah,
I also did pay. I paid the 2 tax liens, which totaled about $20,000. It was $19,000 and change. I did pay off those 2 tax liens when I purchased the property, and I am keeping up on the property taxes on top of that. So, in my opinion, I feel like I took a piece of property that was abandoned and turned into, or hope to turn into, something that is useful and at least pays a little bit of tax revenue and is no longer an eyesore, is something that can be used for its originally intended use.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Benchburn.
Can you talk about the dock and the length of the dock, what's there now? I think that's going to be very important.
Yes,
Okay.
so when I looked at some historical aerial photos, I did find that back in the 1950s, there used to be a dock along the center of the property. And it looks like that dock is long gone. And I don't know if Mrs. Doring has any memories, or her mother used to tell her stories about how they used to spend summers here. But it looks like somebody went and built a smaller wood dock here that's not even connected to the land along this bulkhead wall here. So I intend on taking that dock down and building a new dock that extends out approximately 50 foot from the mean water line over here. And the water over here along this bulkhead is actually a stone wall along the lake. So the water along here is very shallow. I have a pontoon boat, so I can get it pretty close in there. But if I was to have some other type of boat with a standard hull, I wouldn't be able to come too close because it is very shallow over here. So I, do want to have the dock go out a little bit further so I can keep the boat out there. And if you look at the neighboring dock where Mr. Ginter's dock is, you can see it extends about the same length into the lake. This bulkhead wall here, as you can see, it comes out, this concrete wall, it comes from the beginning of the dock and it extends all the way out to here, where my mouse is, which is about along the shoreline or the end of his boathouse. So the dock would extend from that area out.
Okay.
And
Thank
it's
you.
4 foot wide. Yes, sir.
Questions, concerns from the Board of Ed? From the Land Use Board?
How wide is the dock, Brian?
Pardon?
How wide is the proposed dock?
The proposed dock is 4 foot wide.
Okay, so that meets code, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Any other questions or concerns?
How much lighting do you intend on putting down there? You don't want to make it like a car lot, but you want to have it for safety, security things? What do you?
Yeah, it's going to be minimal light for safety and security. I definitely don't want to make it a car lot. I would probably put one light bulb facing towards the gravel path in front of the shed and the dock, and one facing up towards the road so I can safely exit. And I'm probably going to have the smart lights that I control from my phone. So when I walk away, I can turn them off. That one of them may have a motion light on them, just in case somebody comes down in the middle of the night. But I don't intend on keeping this lit up like a car lot. When I'm not using this and my family's not, entering or exiting the property, I will keep the lights off. Like I said, there might be a security light that comes on if somebody goes down there, but I don't intend this to be something that's used daily. Most likely it would be during the summer season, and you probably won't see me around for the rest of the winter, besides when I come in the fall and clean up the leaves.
Okay, anything else from the board?
How much cleanup did you do on that lot to bring it up where it's not overgrown?
Yeah, so there was a lot of vegetation that was dumped there by other people. So I ended up removing, I would say, a good 40 yards of dead trees and leaves and garbage from there, and including some tires.
Okay.
So it was pretty bad. There was a lot of vines and poison ivy.
Brian,
Yes.
are you going to do anything to try to control the erosion along there? When we were there this past week, there's a lot of erosion going on there.
Yeah, the erosion has been an issue with this lot for some time, and I do intend on planting a lot of native grasses and filling in as much of the area around that's not necessary for the walkway. I will probably have either some area where the grass is kept trimmed, and the rest I will fill with different native grasses to fill in all of the areas to help control the erosion.
Anything else from the board? Okay, let me open this to the public. Would anybody from the public like to comment? Brian, please stop your using the screen so that we can see who wants to speak. Anybody from the public want to comment or question this application? Please go to the bottom of your screen and in reactions, raise your hand. Anybody at all?
Mr. Chair,
Mr.
it's Bone. I know it says Dowling, but.
Well, wait, we have somebody else first.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Honashowski.
Yes, thank you. Hi, Dan Honashowski here. I'm in for John Rushke. I'm the engineer.
Okay.
Sorry, I was having some technical issues earlier.
Oh, good. I'm glad to see you arrived. Okay, Mr. Bone, you're up.
Just a quick question.
Yes.
Comment. There, as noted, there is a lot of stormwater that runs through this property from the county road. So just would like to stress that if this moves forward with the development, that soil erosion, sediment control measures are installed near the lake to make sure that during construction, we don't get a lot of muddy water rushing through and into the lake.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Besthorn seems to agree with that.
Absolutely. I also enjoy the lake and want to keep it clean, and I will be sure to install erosion controls and sediment controls before I start any type of construction. And I will maintain those systems as needed. And I plan on minimizing disturbances.
Okay, Mr. Bone, you're up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, I'd like to ask Mr. Besthorn, are you going to be presenting any other testimony tonight, engineering testimony or the like, or is it just your testimony?
Tonight, it will be just my testimony. I'll answer any questions I can to the best of my ability, but it will be me.
Okay, thank you. Do you intend to drive to the site or to provide any parking facilities on the site?
No, because there's no room for a turnaround, we can't put a driveway in. Some of the other homes in the area do have driveways without turnarounds, but the current laws and rules on a county road would be that you need to have a turnaround in order to put a driveway in on that property.
Thank you. Now you talked about how shallow the lake is right at the shoreline. And you mentioned the existing dock that's there, the small dock that's there. Did you in fact dock your boat on that dock last year?
Yes, I did.
Okay, so if your dock only extended as far out as that dock, then you would be able to park a boat there.
Not really. If you give me a minute, I could bring up a picture of how it looked to dock my boat there. It was kind of ridiculous. And plus, I do have a pontoon boat with a very, very shallow draft. I don't always plan on having a pontoon boat with a very shallow draft. And if I did have a boat with a more standard helm, there would be no way to dock it as close as I did my pontoon boat.
Are you going to pull that photograph up?
I'll just need a minute, so I'll let him continue while I do that, if that's okay.
Do you know how shallow the lake is at any other point?
I have a kind of a good idea. I've gone swimming out there, and I know that towards the back of my boat, which extended about 8 feet past the current dock, it was about up to my chest.
And by 8 feet past, you mean further into the lake?
Further into the lake, yes.
And how far would that be from the lake shore?
I would say about between 30 and 35 feet where I was standing. Yeah, I was able to change my propeller by standing in the water out there.
Now, before bringing this application, did you contact either of the neighboring property owners and offer to sell the property to them?
No, I don't have any requirement to do that.
Are you referring to Nash letter, Mr. Bone?
Yes, sir.
I think Nash does apply for single-family home use of a property. Does your client have an interest in purchasing the property?
I have not discussed, we'd have to see what price it was offered at.
I'm sure you've discussed it with him. This has gone on for a long time.
Well, if there's never been an offer, that it would be speculation.
You want to make an offer, Mr. Besthorn?
I'm not prepared to make an offer at this time, but I can state that the property has had 2 tax certificate sales, and the opportunity has presented itself numerous on at least those 2 occasions for somebody who had interest in purchasing the property to do so.
Thank you. Good.
Unequivocally.
That guy.
Mr. Bone?
Yeah. The existing lot surface, you said you cleared some brush, I believe. Is there also broken up macadam on the lot?
By macadam, do you mean some broken up asphalt?
Yes.
It looks like some of the roadway over the years has washed down and has been deposited towards the road area, but it looks like that just road wash from the years of erosion.
Okay, now, Mr. Bestorn, you've indicated that you're going to be the only one testifying on your behalf tonight. Let me just make it clear. Are you a licensed professional engineer?
I am not, but I did have engineering plans drafted and sealed by a licensed professional engineer that I am presenting today.
And that engineer is not here to be questioned about them?
That's correct. He is not.
Okay.
And he doesn't have to be.
Well, if the plans make certain assertions about percentage of coverage by impervious cover, can you support those calculations by your own testimony?
I can read the plans and support what I'm reading. Yes.
I know what the plans say, but I can't cross-examine the engineer who prepared them.
What are you getting at, Mr. Bone?
Well, for one thing, Mr. Chairman, it is our position, and it's a position I expressed in the litigation, and because it was decided on other grounds, didn't get adjudicated, but that under your ordinance, this application requires site plan approval. Now, I note that the one of the application forms checked off site plan waiver. Unfortunately, under the only site plan waiver provision I can find in your ordinance, it permits the zoning officer to waive it for previously approved commercial site plans that are involved with a change in tenancy or offense. It certainly doesn't justify the construction of a building. It is my position that the coverage on the property is actually greater than shown on the plans because you have the ground asphalt on the property that's going to affect the permeability of the soil.
Where do you see asphalt, sir?
I'm sorry, sir.
Where is there asphalt?
Mr. Bestorn just said that there's asphalt on the property that was washed down from across the road.
Right. Okay.
Asphalt debris is different than
asphalt debris.
Yes, it's different from coverage.
not considered
We're
covered.
not
Yes.
talking about, there was no pavement on the property.
There's no pavement.
No.
There's no application of asphalt on this property. It's a result of washout.
But if the purpose of impervious cover requirements are to deal with the permeability of the soil, the existence of this asphalt washdown can affect that, perhaps. We don't have an engineer to testify that it doesn't.
He is, however, a licensed engineer in the state of New Jersey, and he signed and sealed these drawings.
He's not here to be cross-examined.
That's okay. Okay. Bill, what do you say?
Mr. Bone, I'm trying to make some sense. What is your client's position? What is your issue with this? What is the problem?
We are opposed to the development of the lot. We are certainly opposed to the size of the shed, which will be in fact a principal building on the site. We're opposed to the large number of variances that are being applied for. We're opposed, well, to the dock in general, but certainly there's no justification so far for a variance to allow a 50-foot dock when your ordinance would limit it to 30 feet.
Mr. Bestron, what's the size of the shed? What is the size of the shed? I don't know that you
by 12.
put
The plan shows 10 by 12 by 14 feet high.
Right.
Now, your ordinance defines a storage shed and limits it to 8 feet high.
Okay, so we have one, the variance would be for for letting the shed extend above 8 feet, up to
Yes.
14.
It's my position that you have two D1 and one D6 variants.
Excuse me, the maximum height for an accessory structure is 18 feet.
Thank you.
The delineation for a shed was to allow sheds on the smaller properties to get closer to the rear and side yard setback in the back of the property. And that's where that definition of a shed came from. But the accessory structure can be 18 feet high.
Thank you, Bill.
So ultimately, we're 4 feet below that then.
Right.
Okay.
But you're still proposing a use that's not permitted and the shed as a principal building that's not permitted as a principal building.
Okay, right.
Okay.
Anything else?
Well, as I said, that he's required to have site plan approval. They have, okay, that's his pontoon boat, I guess.
Right.
My dock.
Okay.
Yeah, so I just wanted to show, so my boat is about as far in as I can get it. And it's hard to tell from this picture, but there's some distance between the front of the boat and the shoreline. I can't really bring my boat any closer than that. And that's a pontoon boat with a shallow draft. The end of the bulkhead is back here.
Now, excuse me, I'm not a boat person, but can't you dock it towards the lakeward edge of, I know that's not the dock you're proposing, but if you had a dock ending about that location, your boat would be back another 20 feet, wouldn't it? You don't need a 50-foot long dock.
The lakeward edge, you mean pushing the dock further out into the lake?
No, not pushing the dock, mooring the boat at the edge of the dock. I said, excuse me if that doesn't work, but I'm not a boat person.
Yeah, so I can't move my boat closer to the shoreline from where it is in this picture because the water gets very shallow.
That's not what I'm asking. I'm asking, could you move the boat further from the shore and dock it at the furthest point of the dock from the shore?
He's entitled to a dock, but you're not. You should walk in with the water. That's kind of what we're stating here. You don't need a dock, I do, and you park it as ever hard it is to do. That's what I'm hearing now. You don't.
Your ordinance limits dock length.
Sure does. You call that a dock, or you call that a raft?
That's all right. We have the right as a land use board to give a variance if we see fit.
Yes.
That doesn't look like a dock to me. It looks like a floating pier. It is not connected to the land. Dock, to me, extends from the land into the water. So that I wouldn't even consider that a dock at all.
That's not the dock he's proposing. He's
Correct.
proposing a 44-foot wide, 50-foot long dock.
Yes.
And your ordinance would permit only about 30 feet long.
Okay.
Without a permit.
All right. I think that point is made.
Yep.
Do you have anything else, Mr. Bone?
I will have testimony from Mr. Ginter when it's my turn.
Okay.
So go ahead. It's your turn now. Go ahead, Mr. Ginter.
All right, I just like to.
Raise your right hand.
Let's, Mr. Ginter, in, please. Okay. Mr. Ginter, please raise your right hand.
Got it.
There's a lot of noise in the back here. Do you swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes,
And you're the owner of the property adjacent to this property?
correct.
Okay. Mr. Ginter, how long have you lived at the property that you now own?
Since 1970, I purchased the property from my family, which was since 1945.
Okay. Are you familiar with the historical uses of the property that's now owned by Mr. Bestform?
Yes.
Okay. Can you tell the board what those uses have been?
Basically, it was Mr. Toth, Mr. Gustav Toth, built the house across the street, and his son lived behind him in the cottage. He was a jeweler in New York City. They maintained that fire lane to a very, very, property. They built the original dock.
Now, let me interrupt you.
Right.
When you called it a fire lane, what was the purpose of the fire lane?
The fire lane was created because it's impossible to have fire hydrants periodically around, and they didn't have pumpers. So what they did is they created these fire lanes, which later became access points for the Hopatcong Hills and development, so on and so forth. But they were primarily for fire trucks to gain access for water to fight fires where, they could not access water from fire hydrants.
Are you saying then that this property was originally a fire lane?
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you. Okay.
And after or in conjunction with its use as a fire lane, did it have any other use?
Yes, it did. New Jersey Bell at one point had trouble trying to feed phones across on Squaw Trail into Byram Cove. At one point in time, they ran a telephone cable from Maxim Drive down the fire lane, down across Byram Cove underwater, and exited somewhere around Squaw Trail, probably not too far from the community dock. The problem was, I guess, politics, and the electric company didn't want to let the phone company have cable there, and there was a lot of stuff going on. But anyway, there were at least 6 phones, maybe more, year-round residents that needed phone service, and that's how that line came out roughly in the mid-70s. During that time, the fire lane was snow plowed during the winter. They had grass planted. It was absolutely, they used to back down right to the water's edge. One of those big AT&T or the New Jersey Bell dual axle trucks right down. And that was the last time that fire lane was ever, taken care of properly. From that point forward, when the phone company abandoned that, everybody just let the thing go to seed. And it was terrible. The amount of gas cans, oil cans, right now, I'll bet you 2 to 1, you can do some tests on there and find you've got some.
That's enough. Now, Mr. Chairman, I have some photographs, if I have your permission to share my screen.
Sure, go ahead.
Thank you. Let me find the right. Okay, so. Okay, Mr. Ginter, can you tell me what the photo that is labeled A, and we can officially mark them?
Okay, that would be
Let's mark that.
from my
June.
mailbox looking directly east.
Okay.
When is this picture taken, sir?
3 days ago, Sunday.
Was this picture taken within the past week?
Yes.
Okay, does it fairly and accurately depict the conditions that existed at the time it was taken?
Yes.
So where my cursor is now, is that your driveway?
That's my driveway.
Okay, now there's a rock here.
Right.
Is that?
That would be the borderline, most likely, of the fire lane east.
Okay, so the other side of the fire lane from your property.
If you look very carefully, I don't know if you can see it, but there should be a red marker right about.
Okay.
That's the.
Well, they can't see your face.
It's survey. Well, anyway, it's a survey mark.
Okay, so there is the street, and certainly we will agree with Mr. Vesthorn's contention that it's not safe to park on the street.
Correct.
And is this another picture of the street?
Yes, showing the big rock.
Does it fairly and accurately depict the conditions that existed when it was taken?
Particularly the rock.
Okay, now
site distance.
So this is a large rock.
Huge.
Okay, does it affect the site distance when you pull out of your driveway?
Terribly. What you see, do another 3 or 4 behind the trees. What you see is only, about a quarter of the size of the rock that exists there.
Well, if I may, he's not proposing to park any vehicles here.
Right.
Yes. I'm trying to orient the board to where the property is.
Okay.
Now, the picture that's listed as C, does it fairly and accurately depict the conditions that existed at the time it was taken?
Yes.
Okay. And does this look like the asphalt that we've been talking about that was deposited on the site?
Yes.
And Now, a picture that I've marked as D.
Yes.
Again, does it fairly and accurately depict the conditions that existed at the time it was taken?
Yes.
Okay, can you describe, is this the seawall?
This is the supposed retaining wall that holds back Maxim Drive and the fire lane.
And that's in bad condition?
That's the reason why you can't bring a boat up to the top, because everything from, the Maxim Drive and beyond has been deposited down to the lake.
Okay, and finally, picture I depict as E, does it fairly and accurately depict the conditions that existed at the time it was taken?
Yes.
Okay, now let's start with this red thing right here. Can you tell me what
Yes, that's a red barrel from Home Depot that I go out and I put out every year to try to save people's motors, lower units and propellers from getting hit, and sailboats.
And getting hit from what?
From the rock. There's a rock there 6 by 6. You put it
under the water.
Under the water, right.
Okay. Now
you can stand on the rock and it's up to your knees, in depth. So that gives you an idea.
Okay, and then this is the dock we've been discussing.
Right.
Is that your dock?
Yes. Sam Hoagland, knowing the problems I was having with this particular property, he says, look, he said, do yourself a favor. I have an old snowmobile dock, put it on there. At least it'll protect, your people, when you try to use your property, because it's just an open, crib dock with rocks.
Okay. And you understand that Mr. Besthorn proposes and he undoubtedly entitled to remove that dock.
Mr. Besthorn put angle iron and put the dock to the old existing pilings and put his hardware on there and docked his boat there. And I told him, it's not your dock.
Okay.
There's my ramps.
Mr. Chairman, I'm finished with these pictures. If you want me to stop sharing my screen.
Yes, please do.
Well, I'm confused here. We're looking right at this photograph at this disconnected dock on the Besthorn property. And Mr. Ginter, your property is to the left of this?
That's correct.
And the dock that is, you just see a little portion of the dock to the right.
Right.
On the right corner, that's the neighbor's dock that encroaches into the Besthorn property, correct?
No.
No.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, the one with the ladder.
Yes, it is.
With a ladder.
That's it. That's the
encroaching dock.
Yes, this one.
Right.
Okay.
And you're saying that this dock that's shown is yours, sir, Mr. Ginter?
Yes. Yes.
Well, why is it on Mr. Besthorn's property?
Because nobody would come down for years and protect my property line. I had a stockade fence there. I had a split rail fence there.
Okay.
I mean, I had enough.
Okay.
And there's no issue that if it has to be, if Mr. Besthorn's going to build a dock, we'll remove that. That we're not asserting that we should keep that there.
Okay.
But
all right, you can stop
I'm
sharing.
trying to factually show you what's existing.
Okay.
Do you have anything else, sir?
Just the length of the dock.
What is there any? What?
Mr. Bone or Mr. Ginter, do you have anything else?
Not at this time.
Mr. Bone, I marked the photographs G1 through G5 corresponding with your order of submission, just to make a record.
And I would be happy to send them to you or to the board secretary.
The
so
board
you have it in
secretary.
your file.
The board secretary. And I marked the applicant's photograph as A1.
Okay. Would anybody else from the public like to comment or question this application? If so, please go to the bottom of your screen and in reactions, raise your hand. We'll wait for a moment to see if anybody wants to.
Now, Michael, you're there. He's raising his hand.
Yes, I'm raising my hand. Hello, can you hear me?
Michael Pinter.
That's me.
Okay, Michael, raise your right hand, please, and be sworn in by our attorney.
Mr. Pinter, do you swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, it is the truth. I swear.
Okay, where do you live, Michael?
Okay. Where do you live, Mr. Pinter?
I live in Vernon, New Jersey.
Okay,
My father purchased lot number lot number 33 directly across the street from Mr. Besthorn back in 1970.
is that on Maxim Drive?
That is on Maxim Drive, yes.
Okay, go
Uh,
ahead.
I would like to say that I support Brian in his quest to make the changes on this lot that he purchased, because he will accomplish the intended goal of what's written in my deed, which is to share that property with the other owners that have access to it, that are given deeded rights to use that lot, to swim, to put their boats in, kayaks and such. So I think he is doing a very, very good thing. He cleaned up that lot. You wouldn't even recognize the difference between what it was and what it is currently. And I know that Mr. Besthorn will do an excellent job to provide access to all of those people who have deeded rights to that lot. So I encourage you to please allow him to do what he plans. That's all I
Okay,
have to say.
Thank you very much, Mr. Pinter.
Thank you.
Would anybody else from the borough, anybody else from the public like to comment or question this application? If so, please go to the bottom of your screen and in reactions, raise your hand. Ron, I don't see anybody. Do you?
No, I don't either, sir.
Okay, then I will bring it back to the board. What is the pleasure of the board? Are there any more questions, or would somebody like to make a motion?
I'll make the motion to approve it.
Okay, that was from Anthony.
I'll second it.
Okay,
Mr. Bongiovanni,
Yes.
Mr. Dellarina,
Yes.
Mr. Duncan,
Yes.
Mr. Gaffney,
Mark,
Mr. Gaffney,
Yes.
You muted, Mark?
Yes.
Mrs. Crock,
Yes.
Mr. Ray,
Yes.
Mr. Tappan,
Yes.
Mr. Taylor,
Yes.
Mr. Gilbert.
yes. Okay, Mr. Besthorn, you have our blessings. Good luck with it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can I please request a memorial, what's it called?
Waiver memorialization.
Memorialization.
Yes.
Okay, somebody
I'll,
want to make that motion?
I'll make the motion.
Okay, Mr. Duncan made the motion. Mr. Tappan seconded it.
Okay,
That was for waiver memorialization.
all right, Mr. Bongiovanni,
Yes.
Mr. Dellarina,
Yes.
Mr. Duncan,
Yes.
Gaffney,
Yes.
Mrs. Crock,
Yes.
Mr. Ray,
Yes.
Mr. Tappan,
Yes.
Mr. Taylor,
Yes.
Mr. Gilbert.
Yes. Okay, Mr. Besthorn, you can go down to see Mr. O'Connor tomorrow and get any permits that are needed.
Thank you,
Mr.
Chairman.
Besthorn, you know that that's at your own risk. If, there is a period of appeal, and if there is an appeal filed and you undertake your construction, you run the risk. You understand that. I just want to make sure that's on the record.
Thank you, sir. I do understand that.
Okay, very good.
Good. Thank you very much, everyone. Mr. Gaffney, Mr. Besthorn, Mr. Bone, Mr. Ginter. Thank you all. Okay, the next one, Marcelo and Maritza Velez, block 50411, lot 6, 12 Crestview Road. The applicant would like to construct a 28 by 10 raised deck at the rear of the home, and there are variances. Is Mr. or Mrs. Velez here?
Yes, we are.
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'm back on.
Okay, And how about Mr. Schindler?
Mr. Chairman, I am back here also, Han.
Okay, Mr. Schindler and Mayor Francis are both back on, so the two alternates who are filling in for them can just relax.
Marcello and
Hey,
Maritza.
Mr. Velez and Mrs. Velez, you want to raise your right hands, please, and be sworn in by our attorney.
You swear that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
We do, yes.
Yes.
And you are the property owners?
Yes.
And is there going to be anybody else testifying for you tonight?
No, we're going to testify on our own behalf.
Okay. First question I have, sir. When I was over at your property and spoke with you on Sunday, you indicated that work had just begun on Thursday, and that's why there was no super silt fence. I drove by today and there's still no super silt fence. Why is that?
Actually, there is. I know I saw in the camera that you did come. You there maybe 10 minutes after I had left to run an errand. It's difficult to see the silt fence from the top, but Mr. Bongiovanni was on the site yesterday, and he can, I believe, can attest to the fact that both silt fence and hay bales were completely lined the waterfront.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I was there yesterday, and I walked down to the bottom of the lot. I did see the silt fence as well as the hay bales. It looked pretty good.
Good. Thank you very much. Okay. In that case, Mr. Velez, what would you like to tell us?
So good evening. Good evening, everyone. My name is Marcelo Velez. My wife sitting next to me is Maritza. We are recent owners of 12 Crestview, which is in the Byram Cove section of Lake Hopatcong. We just closed on the purchase of the home at the end of this past December, and we're seeking a variance to allow us to build an elevated deck, a 10-foot by 28-foot deck off of our first floor living room and kitchen. This floor level is approximately 9 feet above the walkout basement level. The construction of the deck would result in nonconformance with section 242-18A of the zoning ordinance, which is structure within 50 feet of the lake. While there are pre-existing nonconformances on the property, this would be the only new nonconformance triggered by construction of the proposed deck, and therefore is the only variance required and requested this evening. The proposed deck would be, when built, 32 feet from the closest edge of the lake. We have already secured Sussex Health Department approval for the deck as it relates to the location of the new septic system that is presently being installed, which you witnessed when you visited the site. The house, which was built some 50 years ago, sits at the base of a very steep rock slope. Therefore, the home, with its modest 24 by 30 foot footprint, could not have been built further away from the lake. The house itself is approximately 42 feet from the closest edge of the lake. So given the physical challenges of the site, both the size of the lot and the prevalence of steep rock, it would not have been possible to build a deck of any size without a variance. We're seeking to build a 10-foot wide deck that could accommodate an outdoor dining table to allow us to have meals outside and enjoy views of the lake with friends and family.
Okay. Did you receive the letter from Mont McDonald from Mr. Rushkey?
I did.
Which was dated March 17th of 2022.
I did. Yes, I did.
Okay, and you looked at the 3 items, I believe it is, in the technical review. Do you have any questions about any of them?
I don't. I did have a question about Rule 16, but I looked it up and I saw that it dealt with deck being built within the flood hazard area, which it is not. And it's also not enclosed with walls, but so it's not relevant. The other 2 items were also not relevant to the proposed deck. So I believe that we are in complete conformance with that rule.
Okay. Anybody else from the board? Any questions from the board? including alternates who can't vote but can still question applications. Any other questions? Okay, then I will open it to the public. Would anybody from the public like to comment or question this application? If so, please go to the bottom of your screen and in reactions, raise your hand.
Trying to get it to come on.
More.
Can you hear me?
Who is this?
Raise hands. That was it.
Gotcha.
Ron, do you see anyone?
Okay. Yes, Robert Devine is on.
Mr. Devine, yes, go ahead.
How are you, sir? I met
Raise
you
your
on
right hand,
Sunday.
please, and be sworn in by our attorney.
Yes, Mr. Devine, please raise your right hand.
It
Do you
is
swear-
raised.
Okay, do you swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And are you a neighbor?
I am. I live right next door.
Okay.
We just purchased last year ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And I am all for their deck, because having a deck, and there's nothing more beautiful on a Saturday than sitting out there having coffee. And I'm all for their, and I hope you approve it.
Okay. Anything else, Mr. Devine?
That is it.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your
Thank you, sir.
testimony. Would anybody else from the public like to comment or question this application? If so, please go to the bottom of your screen and in reactions, raise your hand. I'll wait for a moment as Mr. Tappan and I look over the screens. I don't see anyone else. Do you, Ron?
No, sir.
Then I will bring it back to the board. What is the pleasure of the board?
Just one.
I make a motion that we approve.
1 second, I just got one question. I'm
Okay,
looking at
Mr.
the
Duncan has a question.
looking at the documentation under this description of proposed project that says 28 by 12 raised deck. On everything else, it says 10-foot deck. So is it 10-foot or 12-foot?
It is 10. It was initially submitted as 12. I thought I had revised the documentation to reflect 10 feet. The 10 feet was the dimension that was approved by the county health department.
Okay, so the 12 taking the field. Okay.
Right, correct.
Okay. Thank you.
I think it's a suitable size.
Okay, who wanted to make that motion?
I'll make.
I made it. Or second it, whatever you want to do.
Okay,
All right, I got Ron. Who's the other one?
Duncan.
Got it.
Oh my God, we're on the same page tonight.
Isn't that? We're not done yet.
That's a rarity.
You got that right.
Ron Giovanni,
Yes.
Mr. Duncan,
Yes.
Mr. Gaffney,
Yes.
Mrs. Crock,
Yes.
Mr. Ray,
Yes.
Mr. Tappan,
Yes.
Councilman Schindler,
Yes.
Mayor Francis,
Yes.
Mr. Gilbert.
yes. Okay, thank you very much, Mr. and Mrs. Velez.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can I also request a waiver of memorialization?
Sure. Would somebody like to make that motion?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
Mr. Bon Giovanni,
Yes.
Mr. Duncan,
Yes.
Mr. Gaffney,
Yes.
Mrs. Crock,
Yes.
Mr. Ray,
Yes.
Mr. Tappan,
Yes.
Councilman Schindler,
Yes.
Mayor Francis,
Yes.
Mr. Gilbert.
Yes. Okay, Mr. and Mrs. Velez, you have our blessings. You
Thank
can
you.
also go and pick up building permits tomorrow. As Bill reminded Mr. Besthorn, there is a period during which it might be contested.
Understood. Thank you so much.
You are
Okay.
very welcome.
Thank you.
MRE Development LLC, Block 40204, Lot 10, 321 Elmira. Applicant would like to build a single-family home on a non-conforming vacant lot, variances, etc. Mr. R, there you go.
Yes.
Russ, Matt.
Yes.
Is anyone going to be here with you, Matt?
Yes, I have my attorney because I'm under an LLC now.
Okay, so the attorney doesn't have to be sworn in, but you do.
Yes, I know the deal.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
And how are you affiliated with the applicant?
I am a member of the LLC.
Okay. Very good.
Okay, and who is your attorney?
Marlene Horlacker.
Good evening, everyone. I'm here, Attorney Marlene Horlacker, on behalf of the applicant, MRE.
Okay. Okay, back to Matt.
Yes.
What would you like to tell us about this? Anything?
Yes. So this is a property that I purchased from the town because it was shown on the tax record as a conforming lot over 15,000 square feet. I requested the auction and we bought it at auction. And then, we knew we were going to have lot width issues because it's under 100 feet width, but we thought we were good on the lot size. But once we went out to survey it, we were coming up short, where instead of being a little over 15,000 square feet, this property is about 13.5. And that's probably because this parcel was acquired by the town over several years, over a 20-year period. There was one parcel in 1974, then one in 87, and the last one in 1990. So that's how I was able to buy this property from the town, even though it was non-conforming. We're looking to build a house that conforms with the lot. Nothing about the house is requiring a variance besides the lot itself. We are way under on our lot coverage. We are way under on our building coverage. While we are building a sizable house, we're no way maxing out the property. We had to notify about 41 homeowners, and there was only 2 properties that were larger than ours. So that's why we feel that the size house that we're proposing for here is not like overbuilt for the area. Behind our, and I also want to say one thing. A lot of people are a little bit confused by this application because this property has a Elmira address, but the house is actually going to face Knox, and once it is built, it will get a Knox address. All the storm water is getting caught by the dry wells. We have, we're probably one of the only houses on the street that has dry wells. We are taking out, there's only 2 trees that we're removing from an area that is steep slopes, and we're replanting 4 trees on the left property line side. And it's a pretty straightforward application. Are there any questions on the board?
Any questions from the board?
Yeah, were the NASH notifications provided?
Yes.
And the board secretary, Nicole, you have those?
I do.
Okay.
And no one reached out to me.
And no one reached out to the applicant, I take it?
There was one person that wanted to sell me his house for $350,000. But that doesn't really, that doesn't make any sense or help me.
No, that's not part of NASH. NASH is part of raw land,
Yes.
not and somebody's house.
Right.
No.
Oh, we have we were over there the other day, some of us, and we had a question about the portion that is actually not on Elmira, the narrow portion.
Yes.
Although that goes into the calculation of the just under 14,000, well, 13.5. We were wondering if it's possible to split that off and sell that to the property owners on either side, or does the whole thing have to stay together? And that's probably more of a question.
Well, the whole thing
than anybody else.
Well, he's coming in with a variance application based upon a specific lot size. So if that was going to be contemplated, we'd have to revamp the application for lot area variance diminution. I'm not saying it wouldn't be a bad thing to do. It's an oddly shaped lot, obviously, but it would recast the application in a different light and would have to be filed as an amended application to show that.
Okay. All right. The reason I ask, Matt, is because the property owner, well, if you're looking toward Knox from Elmira, the property owner on the left indicated that he might be interested in purchasing a portion of that if it were available.
I would not support making a non-conforming lot by size even smaller.
Okay.
I agree.
Even if it made others even bigger.
No, not at all, because remember, we're talking about this property, not someone else's.
Okay.
Is this connected to the sewer system?
It will be.
Yes.
Okay, we'll have sewer service. Okay.
Okay.
Matt, you're muted.
Any other
Matt,
questions?
you're muted. Matt, you're muted.
Sorry. Oh, yes. And I said I already had my sewer approval hookup from the council.
Okay.
Are there any other questions from the board?
Matt, there's no plans on building any type of a structure or a shed on that narrow lot, correct? It says that there's no plans of doing it, just putting grass up to the boulder. Is that correct?
Yes. We wanted to give the house we're building a decent yard, but we also wanted to create a buffer between our backyard and Elmira, and we also wanted to be respectful of the neighbors.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Just a
All
note
right.
on a note on the plans that the well should be noted that it has to be at least 20 feet from the dwelling. I don't know how close it is there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay, let's open it up to the public. Anybody from the public want to comment or question this application? Please go to the bottom of your screen and raise your hand in reactions. Mr. Musil. I don't hear you, sir.
You're muted, sir.
You're muted? Nope.
Commissioner, he's not indicated as muted, but he's talking and we can't hear him.
Oh. What, phone? Well, you're on either a computer or a pad of some sort. We see you, but we don't hear you.
Oh, there we go. There we go.
There you go.
Not
Nope.
yet.
No.
Yeah.
All right, call 973-219-5234, and I will try to put you on so that everybody can hear.
Alan, say that number again.
973-219-5234. Oh, here we go. Hello.
Oh.
Okay, let's see if I can put you on speaker. Okay, try that.
Okay, I'm here.
Okay, now your name, sir?
Robert Musil.
Spell your last name.
Musil, M-E-U-S-E-L.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And where do you reside, Mr. Musil?
On 323 Elmira Trail.
Okay. And what would you like to tell the board?
Yeah, so my comments here is when the group came out and talked to me the other day, the history behind this property, to my knowledge, was many years ago, may have been 20 years ago. The town sent myself and my neighbor at 319 letter saying that the parcel of property directly in between us, the 321 property, was available for sale to either myself or my neighbor as it to be an extension of our lot. And only myself or my neighbor were able to purchase that property. And no other person could purchase that property because it was unable to be built on. I got no other notice throughout the year that was conjoined with another lot on Knox Road. Had I known that, I would have considered the opportunity to purchase a conjoined lot, which may have had the ability to build on it. But there was no awareness of that at all. So just wanted to bring that into light.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you. Anybody else? Would anybody else from the public like to comment or question this application? If so, please go to the bottom of your screen and in reactions, raise your hand. I don't see any. Ron, do you?
No, sir.
Okay, seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board. What is the pleasure of the board at this point?
I'll move to approve it.
With the conditions that John has in his report.
Yeah, yes, with the conditions that John has listed in his report.
Okay,
I'll second it.
Okay. Mr. Bongiovanni,
Yes.
Mr. Duncan,
Yes.
Mr. Gaffney,
Yes.
Mrs. Crock,
yes,
Mr. Ray,
Yes.
Mr. Tappan,
Yes.
Councilman Schindler,
Yes.
Mayor Francis,
Yes.
Mr. Gilbert.
yes. Okay, I thank everybody for coming tonight.
Hey, am I able to waive the memorialization
Sure.
like everybody else?
Would somebody like from the board like to make that motion?
I'll move to waive the memorialization.
Okay, we have a motion
Second.
and we have a second.
Okay. Mr. Bongiovanni,
Yes.
Mr. Duncan,
Yes.
Mr. Gaffney,
Yes.
Mrs. Crock,
yes,
Mr. Ray,
Yes.
Mr. Tappan,
Yes.
Councilman Schindler,
Yes.
Mayor Francis,
Yes.
Mr. Gilbert.
Yes. Okay, that motion passes. I'd like to thank Mr. Ruskowski, Ms. Horlacher, and everybody else who came out tonight and who testified. Thank you
Thank
very
Thank you,
much.
everyone.
Thank you.
We'll see you next month.
Okay, we'll move on to the zoning officer report. Bill, do you have anything for us?
No, nothing tonight.
Okay, is there any discussion? No, okay, no resolutions. We did have two pieces of correspondence referring to applications tonight, Pesthorn and Velez. And since there was nobody here from the Lake Hopatcong Commission, we did not go into those letters at all. No escrow refund. Shall we pay the bills?
Pay the bills.
Please.
That's got to be a new record low.
Yeah.
That's because we didn't get the,
Seconded.
we didn't get the lawyer bill. That's why it's so low.
Chairman. Alan,
Yes.
before we move on to the bills, I don't know if you received my email. There was an addendum sent out that there is a resolution for tonight.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, there was,
Thank you, Nicole.
there was
Thank you.
one resolution.
Yeah, this was the application that Cliff London presented, and he intended to ask for a waiver of resolution. This was the Wisdom application, and it was the certification of pre-existing non-conforming use of the boathouse for one bedroom, and the board granted that certification. So his client's anxious to proceed. He contacted me shortly after the meeting to ask if we could have the resolution completed and submitted. So we we did present that.
Okay. Did everybody receive that? Anybody have a question about it? The resolution did indicate that it would be for bed and breakfast, basically, not for long-term.
It indicated that if they're going to use it for short-term rental, they can't have both. You got to
Right.
devote it to one or the other. So I think we wanted to be careful about that. So when you elect and you have the approval, that's how you use the property. So just like everybody else.
Okay. Do we have a motion to approve the resolution?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second,
Duncan? Okay, thank you.
Mr. Bongiovanni?
Yes.
Mr. Duncan?
yes.
Mr. Gaffney?
Yes,
Mrs. Crock?
Yes.
Mr. Ray?
Abstain?
Mr. Tappan?
Ron?
Yes. Yes.
No Schindler and no Mayor on this one, right?
Right.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
Gilbert?
Who do you have?
You.
Yes. Okay.
Now we can
Well,
go back
let's
to
go on to the bills.
Pay the bill.
Bills.
Pay him again.
Pay the bills.
Motion and second.
Okay. Mr. Bongiovanni?
Yes.
Mr. Duncan?
Yes.
Mr. Gaffney?
yes,
Mrs. Crock?
Yes.
Mr. Ray?
Yes.
Mr. Tappan?
Yes.
Councilman Schindler?
Yes.
Mayor Francis?
Yes.
Mr. Gilbert?
Yes. I will now open the meeting to the public. Would anybody from the public like to address the board on any issue at all? If so, please go to the bottom of your screen and in reactions, raise your hand. Anybody at all from the public, any issue at all? Seeing none, I will bring it back to the board. Is there any old business? Oh, wait, Mara, go ahead.
Yes.
Mara, raise your
being-
right hand, be sworn in.
I'm just asking a question.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, go ahead.
Being that, everybody else is in person and they have bulletproof barriers up in the courtroom now, I was wondering if you were considering going back to in-person meetings. Thank
We
you.
have not even discussed it. Mr. Mayor? You have anything to say?
That's at the pleasure of the board. I could tell you back on numbers are going up, so I encourage people to be very careful. This month we have twice the positive cases that we did last month. So I don't think we should let our guards down, but again, it's at the pleasure of the board.
And as the chairman of the board, I have no intention of attending any meetings in person, because you have to remember that those of us on the board sit very close to each other in the front of the room. So I would prefer to keep it virtual. Anybody else want to comment on that?
I agree with you, sir.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I'm happy with it being virtual for now as well.
I am too. My wife is positive. So Alan, as I know you just said, your granddaughter just tested. My wife is positive as well.
Right. And my wife has cancer. I'm not going to be in any situation where I might be positive.
They also say that it kind of works out fine. I mean, I know that Anthony, you had traveled, you were able to go remotely from wherever you were. I plan on traveling, so I see the same benefit.
Okay.
And, if I'm out of state, I can still jump in.
Well,
I think that.
Mr. Gilbert, the sad reality of it is
What?
that we've done Zoom now. We've had a pretty good history with council meetings and land use board meetings. I'm just speaking as it's personal. This has nothing to do with being on commissions or anything else. It's very interesting to me that we get more participation on Zoom than we do in live meetings. And I can do the statistics on it if you want, but the last council meeting
because I've noticed the same thing.
Yeah, the last council meeting we had on Zoom, we had over 60 people participate. The last time we had a live meeting, we may have had, I don't know, 10 or 15 people in the room. Half of them were getting proclamations for something. It's much higher participation on Zoom.
Just like it's plus and minus for either way you do it. So there's pluses to it, there's minuses to it. But right now it seems to be working. Let's maintain it.
Right. Let's keep it the way it is for now.
Yeah. Revisit it.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mrs. Modes. Anybody else from the public want to comment? Okay. Is there any old business? Any new business?
What I do have one comment, Alan. On
Go
new
ahead.
business. When I started on this board 12 years ago, and you and I started relatively the same time, we were the planning board for Hopatcong. We really haven't had a planning meeting in ages. And I think maybe we should get an agenda to get items that have not, we only deal with zoning issues. We don't deal with planning. A little bit with John Rushke, but let's have a planning meeting where I actually talk about the town and its path forward.
Well, Bob, let me ask you a question. I like your idea, but I will have to say, like the redevelopment area was proposed and passed at River Styx, that was a very big planning issue that I think that the land use board was very much involved with. And I think that there's something coming up, as the mayor has been talking about with Rushke, about a second redevelopment area. That's going to be a planning issue. But if you have something specific that you want to work on, I'm all for it. That's, this is why we're here as a group, if we have some issues.
What I wanted to table a little bit, since my position on the lakefront development has been a little harsh with some of the developments that have come before us in recent months. We get a lot of proposals that just, put an abundance of, stuff on our shorefront. And it seems like it's out further and further. Look at Point Pleasant over there, all those massive things that have been built out there, requested. So, maybe we should start looking at that. But a comment by the public last time was, consider what's being developed on our shorelines and don't overextend it. Leave the beauty of the lake still with the lake and the houses. Don't make it look like a massive city line on a riverbank. So I just want to talk about it a little bit, not modify what people bring to us, but just have a little open debate about, do we really want these lakefront places to have, decking beyond words? Folks have money. I'm glad that. I want to see development, but not to the point where you have thousands and thousands of square foot of decks on a house, and then they want to put a boathouse and more decks. Like I made a joke, a wharf, but it's getting to that point. That one has a lot of dock space. It becomes a marina. And look at the pictures we saw tonight, how close all those docks are adjacent to one another. And that's the nature of the lake, but we can't overbuild it either. So that's my concern.
Well, we have a couple of applications coming before us again. Some have been before us before and are coming back, and we have some new ones coming up. So maybe we should have this discussion at some point.
Well, be careful with that, because we got to take them one at a time. So if you say there's just too much development, that gives the wrong message to folks. So what you have to do is look at one and understand that we support improvements and we support modernization, although we might not like some of it. To say, there are folks that I talk to quite often that don't want to change anything on the lake because they're happy with the lake the way it used to be. Well, unfortunately, things change, and we have to be able to change with them. But the point I'm making is to make a change in the direction, let them make the improvements. And although we might not like the way it looks, it's still an improvement. And then when people can see that they can better their worth, if you will, with some place they'd like to call home, we should not stand in the way of that.
Right.
My view has always been, you got to consider the town first. You also have to consider the neighborhood, the people adjacent to the, builds. And then you also consider the application and why it's a hardship to do what you want to do. So it's just being fair to all parties, ourselves, neighbors, as well as that. So maybe we need to look at some of the ordinances that we blanketly push through. We need ordinances reviewed a little bit maybe, and some other considerations done.
And then you're gonna fall into precedent trap, and there's no precedent in
Oh.
land use or zoning. So like I say, we just have to try to guide people to the best of our ability and our engineering ability to let them do the improvement, but keep it real, quite simply.
Well, I think we've had some recent overbuilds that are, you start to get out in the water and look at what's being built, and it's really in contempt of the beautiful lakefront. It's now a pier of structure.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, for the moment, let's just continue to treat every applicant separately, every application separately.
That's exactly correct. That will keep us out of trouble and stay away from the precedents. Let's just try to guide people. Everybody should have a vision, and that's okay if they're not the same, but you can't just appear like we're not going to permit anything or we're going to resist everything. Let's not resist change. Let's make it so that it benefits us.
I agree.
My objection is size. Mass size on lots that don't accommodate. So we just got to consider it.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. Judy,
Let's roll.
Judy,
Motion to adjourn, please.
we are adjourned.
Good night, everyone. It was a
Night.
pleasure.
Good night, everyone.
Night.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.